It's just so unique, like the other talk. Like most talks we don't even have anything, it's just a speaker. Like I did one with a slideshow, but mostly it's just someone talking. The size of the thing, the concept.
Yeah, I think.
Without further ado, give a hand to
Thanks everyone for coming again. Who came last time, just out of interest? Okay, I'll do a bit of a recap because it is quite a complex topic. I'm going into basically the Vedic understanding of the cosmos. So it's basically completely opposed. It's very different to the Western model. So I may lose you. Anyway, what I'd say I do this week is actually explain the disc, because what I was explaining last time was the Kala Chakra, the wheel of time, that the wheel of time that's sort of going on around this Brahmandala Earth Circle concept. I'm just going to read a quick Bhagavatam verse, and then I'll get into it all. So the chariot of the sun god has only one wheel, which is known as the Samvatsara. So this is the Samvatsara wheel. I really went into it last week, last class, in great detail. So it's quite the foundation of what I'm going to build on today. So people are going to get lost. But anyway, it's far out stuff. It's very different to the Western understanding, and there's a real mystical element to it. So I'll try and give you something worth. Do I read this? The chariot of the sun god has one wheel, which is known as the Samvatsara. The 12 months, so there's 12 months here. The 12 months are calculated as the 12 spokes of the wheel. The 6 seasons are the section of its rim. So one thing which the main concept of what I'm doing through all this is I'm explaining the ether, I'm explaining Vedic space through the seed of life. So for millennia, ancients have used the seed of life to actually understand the concept of space and how geometry, how things work within geometric space. This actually is the seed of life. And I showed last class how this third eye concept turns into the seed of life, and then I can actually turn the seed of life into the Samvatsara, into the actual, basically the zodiac, the Kala Chakra that's going on above us. And then I went on to, we talked about the pentagram, the different angles of the pentagram. Does anyone actually know the angles of the pentagram? Anyone remember from last time? 108. This angle of the pentagram is 108. This angle is 72 degrees. And this angle is 36 degrees. And what I did, I used those 3 angles to explain the Navagraha, the 9 planets. So the 7 light planets and the 2 shadow planets. I explained the rulership of Mercury, Venus, and Mars ruling Mercury ruling the 3rd house and the 6th house, Venus ruling the 2nd house and the 7th house, and Mars ruling the 1st and the 8th house. And how all those angles that come from the pentagram basically unpack and explain the entire cosmos and the Kala Chakra which has been going on. So it was quite a big one to miss. Yeah, it's on YouTube as a video.
Oh, is it?
Oh,
good.
What will you got?
It's under VEDIAK, but I actually put it up on YouTube that day.
Was it the previous part one you put on YouTube?
Yeah, the one we did that day. Yeah. So, anyway, that was a bit of a recap. I can't see properly because of this thing.
You want to move that now?
It's right in my face. Oh, it'll be alright, I can manage. I don't know what else you're going to do without making it look.
Yeah, exactly. Still going. That's right. Second. There we go.
So, according to the Srimad Bhagavatam, the entire cosmos, the entire universe rests on the head of a snake. That snake is called Anantasheish, the unlimited serpent. So, in the last class I was just focusing on the seed of life. I basically extracted all these things that I'm talking about from the seed. So I'm going to continue with that principle. So everyone knows what the seed of life is. The seed of life is right. We've seen this.
It's a flower of life, is it?
Well, the flower of life. The flower of life is this expanded. So that's the seed of life. If you want to do the flower of life, you've got to keep doing the circles out.
Can you just tell us what is the seed of life?
The seed of life is basically the seed of life. So, basically for millennia, it's always been used in geometry, in architecture, but sacred geometry. But language, all language comes from the seed of life. All geometry, mathematics, music. For a long, long time, the ancients extracted it from the seed of life. The Platonic solids, you've heard of that, or Plato and Aristotle? Yeah. The 5 Platonic solids, that all comes from here. But it basically is the ether. It explains the ether once you get into it and actually understand it. Sacred geometry shows us how the ether in the universe actually works. So, a circle fit. So, like I said, the entire universe is resting on the head of a serpent. See that? Some people see monkey, some people can see a snake.
How's the head supposed to be?
Sorry? What's that, sorry?
How is the head supposed to be oriented? Looking at us?
Yeah, so there's the eyes,
Yeah.
there's the mouth. I spend a lot of time with it, so I tend to... you see like this? So there's the cosmic snake living within the seed of life. So we're going to... the rainbow serpent, yeah. Aboriginals, they understand the rainbow serpent. Aztecs, it's the feathered serpent. Yeah. And Vedic, it's Anantasheish, the whole thing actually sits on the head of a serpent. So, I'm going to white. So we're dealing with Anantasheish, and we're dealing with this Shiva energy, this Sankashan energy. So these 2 circles that I just put in to the seed of life that creates the snake's eyes, I'm going to join these guys up. And let me know if you know what symbol this is. Actually, it represents the 3 modes: material nature and also the 3 worlds. But it's actually Shiva's Tripundra. This is how Shiva's Tripundra is drawn.
Shiva's tilak, right?
Yes, the markings of Shiva
On his forehead.
on his forehead. Remember that Shiva actually comes from the forehead of Lord Ananta, right?
Lord who?
He comes from the
Snake.
From the forehead of
Ananta is the snake.
Ananta.
Ananta's the snake, and Shiva, actually that is the Shiva lingam, and that is the Shiva, Shiva's markings.
Where is the Shiva lingam?
This one.
Oh,
And what I'll do, it's a whole other class, and I'm going to do it at the next one. I will take the actual lingam, flip this over, and then extract literally Shiva from there, and get this Shiva understanding. But for now, because both Shiva and Lord Ananta, they rule the mode of ignorance. Lord Ananta rules the false ego, You know, and Shiva rules this whole, basically ignorance. They're not the ignorance, they rule the ignorance. So, this is who we're dealing with, Lord Ananta, Lord Shiva, this Sankashan subconscious energy. You with me? And again, I'm taking from this, I'm taking the 72 degrees from the pentagram. So there's 7 light planets and there's 2 shadow planets. The 2 shadow planets is Ketu and Rahu. Rahu. And it's Anantashesha that rules Rahu. Rahu represents the false ego. So, like I've shown before, we have 8 universal elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. So that's all the ingredients for the whole Vedic universe. There's no more ingredients than those 8, apart from the soul. We're the soul within that. Let's get my disaster. Right, where was it? Shiva's Tripundra. Yeah, and Shiva's Tripundra, Shiva's markings are representing the 3 modes and also the 3 worlds. So these lines. Again, I'm always keeping that same circle and not just make it up. So this line here, this line here, creates. Well, in essence, what I'm doing, like the last class I showed the pentagram, this one I'm actually splitting the pentagram and actually creating the false body and the false head, which is Rahu and Ketu. Now we don't even talk about Rahu and Ketu, but in the ancient times they understand it as it's what caused the eclipses. Rahu and Ketu, the shadow planets, cause the eclipses. It's not the sun and the moon, or the moon going in front of the sun, or the Earth going in front of the sun. It's actually a separate planet, creating the eclipses. So we've got an astrology guy.
Yep.
What does Rahu and Ketu, what do they rule?
They're the north and south nodes in tropical astrology, so the moon's nodes.
The moon's nodes.
Which are considered invisible.
What's a node? Sorry.
Well, that's Ketu and Rahu, the nodes of the moon. So it's the particular...
The magnet?
Huh?
The magnetic pole, you mean?
No, it's actually, they're invisible points. I mean, north and south node astrologically is Ketu and Rahu. It's the same in sidereal astrology, so it's the same.
It's like the Earth has its North Pole and the South Pole, so it's the same but in the moon. North Pole of the moon.
So magnetic nodes.
Magnetic points of them, yeah. Same as the
But not
North
not
and
in
the
the
South
south.
Pole here in the Earth, same in the moon.
So you have the 7 light planets: Sun, Moon, Venus, Mercury, Mars, Jupiter and Saturn, and you have the 2 shadow planets, which is Rahu and Ketu. The creation story is all about Rahu and Ketu, because Rahu, the demigods at the beginning of the, actually I'm going to draw in the Mandara mountain. Does anyone know what the Mandara mountain is? So all these circles are important. What I'm going to draw, because what I've actually done right now, even though I've actually created with those circles a pentagram here, an inverted pentagram here. Can we see that one? Actual pentagram representing K2. And that's what I basically explained in that whole last class, was the how the pentagram connects with the false body. I explained it as the also the Star of Man, where we had the four Varnas, the four orders of human society. So this being the Star of Man. It's a bit hard on this thing.
Where are the four Varnas on that?
I'll do it here because it's hard, because I'm trying to. The four Varnas here, you have fire, earth, water, air. So you have the Kshatriyas, you have the Sudras, you have the Vaishyas, and you have the Brahmanas. The Brahmanas rule the head, the Kshatriyas rule the arms, the heart, the Vaishyas rule the belly, and the Sudras, the feet, the Shudras. So the general masses are the Sudras, the Vaishyas are the business. They actually represent water, represent the water. The Sudras are represented in the earth, the Brahmanas are represented in the air, the intelligence, and the Kshatriyas are representing the fire, the heart. So that's a whole other thing that I sort of really went into and explained, and it's all missing from, because we don't have the same crown. But anyway, that's the pentagram represented by Rahu, represented by Ketu, and Ketu rules he's home in the 5th house. Rahu in the 11th house. And these two shadow planets are actually moving anti-clockwise through the sky. Like I said, they're causing the eclipses. Yeah, they're causing the eclipses. And ruling both the false equal and the false body. Getting lost in that. So that's, you have Rahu and Ketu, the false head and the false body. And we have this within ourselves, our own subconscious self. We have our own ahankara, we have our own false ego, which causes us to identify with the physical elements, earth, water, fire and air.
Why did we have Rahu at the bottom, being Rahu called as the head of the serpent?
It's just the way he is in the astrological, he rules the 11th house and the 5th house. It's the, but it's the head and tail of the snake, right? I'll do the creation story because the beginning of creation, the Vedic story is that you have the demigods and the asuras, and they're churning the milk ocean, the Mandara with Mandara mountain, with Vasuki, the cosmic snake. They're actually churning the actual mountain. So the connections to the seed of life and all this stuff is really deep.
So Mandara is the dead center.
Well, this would be, the Mandara is this circle. So they're churning the Mandara mountain within the milk ocean, right? And with the cosmic snake, the tail of the snake and the head of the snake. So they're in the middle of, performing that sacrifice, and the nectar comes out, and then Rahu jumps in and he steals the nectar. And that is the point when Vishnu throws his Sudarshan chakra and chops off Rahu's head. So Rahu becomes Rahu and Ketu.
The body became Ketu.
False body.
The body became Ketu.
Yeah. So, and they get they're two parts of the Navagraha. And as far as the Bhagavatam goes, as far as level goes, say we're talking the Earth as a flat plane. The first planet we get to is Rahu and Ketu. The second is the Sun, the Moon, Venus. What is it? Venus. Then you have the nakshatras. Then you have Mercury,
Jupiter.
Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. So it's running in this order, you know.
So the nakshatras are, so the last 3 planets are out of the nakshatra?
These are the nakshatras. Yeah, that was another thing I explained all last week. I can put it in, but it's just going to get confusing.
Give us a brief version.
Well, this ends up being that. This ends up being the zodiac. What was the question? Sorry. This ends up being the zodiac. What was your question? Sorry.
Question is, these 3 planets you said, Saturn, Jupiter and Mars,
Yeah.
are outside the zodiac, are beyond the zodiac?
No. It's all within the zodiac. It's all within the Manasatara mountain. It's all within this. There's a big wheel going on above this. Kala Chakra, a big wheel, and then you have the 9 planets going on above. You know what I mean? But again, yeah, the Vayu and Ketu, they represent the subconscious, this subconscious state. And so we don't just have a sub-mind, the universe also has a sub-mind. And it's the actual Rahu and Ketu, these actual planets that are controlling that false ego. And the human ability basically to fall into a false state, to fall into believing an illusion. I will put the wheel in. So I really feel like sort of a lot being missed.
Sorry.
This is crazy. I mean, people probably didn't even understand it from the beginning, but at least.
It's all right. We'll get one.
Part 1 was required for tonight's class.
What are these things you're drawing now?
So I'm drawing in the wheel. I'm just connecting up this line and this line and creating this cosmic wheel. I'm just trying, yeah, the zodiac. I'm just trying to fill in the gaps of what was missing.
So you said that each missile or sleeve of flower of life, the seed of life represents the third eye.
No, in a way, the whole thing is basically the singular consciousness. We have it in us, we have that in us. We have the sun as an ego, we have the moon as the mind, we have the Vayu and Ketu as the false ego. Mars, planet rules the base chakra, sun's ruling the solar plexus. Mercury's ruling our communication.
Yeah.
So everything, we're cosmic as well. Whatever's going on in the universe is going on in ours at the same time.
Yeah.
Controlling it in different ways. Anyway, I'll just put the zodiac in. Aries, Leo, ruling the 5th. And then Sagittarius. Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, Scorpio, Pisces, So again, it's in us. We have the Samvatsara wheel, which I read about at the beginning. We have a Samvatsara wheel within us. So when we're born, if the sun's in Aries at the time of our birth, then we are time-stamped with that flavour, with the energy of the sun, where the moon is. You know, it's fully locked in, and it's Vayu, the false ego, that's doing that. It's actually locking us into a false state. You know, we think we are this material body, we think we are this person. Whereas actually, we're the transcendental soul within this body. We're not actually these false elements. So the seed of life, it really shows that, and it's hard for me to explain even in an hour, because I've been on this years. But there's a whole world in there. There's a whole cosmic world within the seed of life.
I never knew this. The planets control the chakras as well.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, of course.
So
Yeah,
our behaviour, our speech, everything.
Everything is all astral. It's all astral.
7 days, 7 planets, it's all connected.
Yeah. So you have, and that is from the Vedic, it's from the subtle to the gross, so the subtle controls the gross, doesn't it, not the other way around. That's why when I do the explanation of the Vedic cosmology, I go and explain the Kala Chakra, the Wheel of Time, the cosmic astral side, and because it's the cosmic astral side that creates the physical. So we need to understand the cosmic astral, and then we'll understand how the physical works. And it's just a reflection, it's just a material reflection. The cosmic wheel is a circle, and then it ends up reflecting the circle. But this is what's understood as the dark side of the moon, you know, Pink Floyd, the whole dark side of the moon. The nodes of the moon, it's this subconscious side, this subconscious, the dark side of the moon, the dark side of the mind. The mind has a subconscious dark side. But just like we can navigate the conscious world, we can also navigate the subconscious world. There's a whole esoteric world. There's a whole, it's the world of symbols. It's not based on language, it's based on symbols and geometry. So like the Vedic principle of yantra, you know, where our mind, our sort of internal workings is a yantra, it's a device. And it's a machine made of material energy. It isn't a, I mean it's organic, but it's still a mechanism. The mind is a mechanism, the intelligence is a mechanism, and we're all actually granted different levels and degrees of those things. You
According
know?
to our activity.
Yeah, according to our past karma. So, right, where was I?
No.
There's a little bit on
Some more questions in there.
sorry.
There's been many questions.
And it's such a massive topic that, you know, I really have to substantiate a lot of things before we can even get into any arguments or discussions or anything, because, you know,
I need prerequisite knowledge.
yeah, there's a lot going on with the Vedic cosmos that it's hard to get through. I did the zodiac. There's this whole principle of phi and pi, of how that's how the ancients understand all their mathematics and everything they did. It was all this either pi. Vedic had pi worked out way before the Greeks and all the other stuff, and also the golden ratio of 3 to 1.618. I'm not going to do this at the song on that yet. I'll do the golden ratio, because I'll show you how the ancients used to get the golden ratio from the seed. And then that'll probably be enough detail. But yeah, and Fibonacci, again, Fibonacci is 61.8% increase. So when you see flowers or petals following this Fibonacci sequence, it's always
What's
that
the
golden
Fibonacci
ratio.
sequence?
Sorry?
What is the Fibonacci sequence?
It's the 1 plus 1, 2, 2 plus 1, 3, 3 plus 1.
You know, the conch shell, the
Yeah,
Canto.
when you see like a flower,
Yeah.
when you see like a flower, and it's basically the mathematical formula that creates those spirals and those circles. Sorry?
Intelligent design.
Intelligent design, that's what I was saying last time. There's a whole logos to the whole thing. And it's all based on that 108 as well. It's all based on that on 108. The way the planets are moving and everything, they always sync up with this 108 circle. Movements of the sun. I may as well just do last week's class, because
We're all beginners.
6 knots away.
sorry, I'm going to do a different colour. I just, sorry. And really what I'd like to do is rub it out, start again and do something else, but it just takes so long. So, movements of the sun, you have the equatorial circle. And as well as the equatorial circle, it also represents the intelligence. That's the equator circle. Then you have the, what I call actually the mind circle. It's the, when the sun is on the Tropic of Cancer, which is actually today, tomorrow, the sun moves into Cancer, onto this tropic. The sun is in the Tropic of Cancer. At the beginning of the year, the sun starts in Aries. Just going to draw the thing in. But again, this is all 5th canto, how the sun moves around the Manasatara mountain and how it moves within the actual, how it moves through the wheel of time. So beginning of the year, which is 322, 3rd of March, 322 or 321, the sun is on the equator, right? It's on the equatorial circle. And for the Swami guys, it's all movements of the sun. Read the movements of the sun in the 5th canto. It sort of explains it all. Beginning of the year, March 21st, 22nd, the sun is on the equator in Aries. 3 months later, well actually that was the date I did the last class. 3 months later...
Is that called Purana?
No, it's solstice, it's vernal equinox. Equinox, yeah. So, and then we have the 6/22, which is tomorrow, today. The sun is in Cancer on its inner orbit. So the sun has 3 speeds, right? You know this, how the sun has 3 speeds? Has an inner and outer orbit and a northern and southern path. So on the 9th, 9/21, the sun is back on the equator in Libra, right? On 12/21, which is known as the winter solstice, the sun is on its southern path. It's on its outer southern tropic. Because you can fully use this to understand the movements of the sun. You know, like now, it's in its northern tropic, so it's north. This is why we're cold at this point in time. The sun's away from us, you know. And as far as the disk goes, Australia's down here. So at this point in time, the sun's on its inner orbit, so it's hot over in the northern circle. As it comes back over to us in Australia, so 12/21, 21st of December, that's when our summer actually starts, when the sun has moved over onto its southern path. So today, tomorrow, the sun will start its southern path back. But so you're understanding how the sun's going around daily, but it's going on an outer orbit and an inner orbit throughout the year. So starting there, moving in, which is today, tomorrow, another 3 months it's going to be there, another 3 months it's going to be on the...
So it's a spiral motion.
Spiral, it's coming down spiric, helio. Helios is helic, it's coming down. It's not linear, how the Westerners explain it. You know, there's this light coming for us from a distance. It's coming down, in the sense of the ether being a liquid, like a subtle liquid. So it's coming down through the ethereal waters. That's how the cosmos is coming down. And that's how it's explained anyway. Movements of the sun, golden ratio. Oh yeah, golden ratio. So that is the golden ratio from here to here is your whole number, your 1, this 1. From here to here is your 61.8%. So if you ever want to find out the golden ratio and build in the golden ratio, you just need a compass and you You can basically use the compass to create those golden ratios. I've just got too much going on now, so it's getting a bit complicated. But it's the reason why the pyramids are the way they are. Because the pyramids are all built in golden ratios. It's all based on the golden triangle.
What is the golden triangle? Oh, each side is equal. Is that right?
I'll show you.
Oh.
I'm going to tell you. I mean, all the Vedic temples, all the pyramids, you can't see it, can you? I'll do it in certain colour. All the pyramids, all the Vedic temples, they all use this golden triangle and these angles. But it is ultimately based on the movements of the sun, creating that golden ratio from there to there. So that's your 61.8%, and that's your whole. But
Is that what they call the all-seeing eye just below that in the pyramid?
I've not put the eye in yet.
But that would be in there.
Well, we may as well go all out.
Part 1, 2, and 3 tonight. That's it.
Well, I'll do the dark side of the moon like I was talking about. But yeah, the angles, again, this is 84 degrees, this is 48, that has to be 48. They add up to 12. 12, 12, 12 is 36, and then you have the 3 movements of the sun and the 6 petals of the seed of life. Again, I showed before how intelligence, or Mercury, rules the 3rd and the 6th house. So our intelligence is 3 sixes. Oh, the OCI, that was it. But that ends up being a whole Shiva thing, and I need to get, I need to do a whole explanation on that.
So the eye of Surya sort of represents the soul, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, it's Surya, but yeah, the eye, it represents Sita.
Sita means?
Like the
Sita.
consort of Rama.
Rams, consort Sita. Yeah. Being the, and again, on the whole last class, I associated Sita and Radha with the Vesica Pisces. This whole Vesica Pisces concept. But
And what was the first word you used before Sita? You said that the eye represents, you used the word
Surya.
Surya.
Surya, the eye of Ra. You know, even with the pyramids, right? They have the eye of Ra.
In the sun.
Yeah.
Surya.
But in the Egyptian as well, they also have the eye of Ra and the eye of Horus. So it's in the Egyptian understanding. This I can do the Egyptian, I can do the Greek, I can do the Mayan, you can do the Vedic, because it's all based on the same thing. But what I'm just going to add in and finish off with is just the 7 rays, like Mark was just saying, how there's 7 light planets, 7 days of the week, 7 chakras.
7 notes.
7 what?
7 colors.
7 colours, 7 light frequencies,
Yes.
7 frequencies of light. But again, it's all coming from the seed. The way the seed divides itself up is the 7. And again, it's the 7 lights within the conscious world. The 7. Where's Jim? Just talking.
From a big time.
Okay. 7 heavens. So there's
Where does the
7.
Big Bang fit into it?
I did that at the beginning when I knocked everything over.
I'm not the creator of
Things
this.
go fall over.
But again, there's a logos to it. There's an understanding, a deep understanding of how. Whoops. again, 7 rays, 7 days representing Mars, Moon, Sun, Venus, Mercury, Saturn and Jupiter. They're the 7 rays. But that's where Floyd get the dark side of the moon from. Even this whole dark side of the moon, that is what Rahu and Canto are, they're the dark side of the moon. But it's also all through Freemasonry as well. It's what Freemasons use. They're always using square and compass, right? It's all square and compass. And it just seems to be how Brahma, you know, how our intelligence works, is looking down, you know, at this whole circular concept. Time is cyclic, you know, life is, it's a cycle, it's a circle, it's not linear, it's not how we're taught at all. There's a circle going on. You know, we live within the cycle, the circle, birth being Cancer, you know, the mother, Capricorn being death. I actually showed that on the other thing, how there's Indra, Chandra, Varuna and Yamaraj rule in the 4 directions. But yeah, we're trapped within the cycle of birth and death. We're stuck within that samsara, within that Kala chakra. And there's not just one big Kala chakra, we have a Kala chakra within ours as well. And this whole thing expands and opens up within our head and our spinal column, and it creates who we are.
So it's like instead of just being a spinning vortex, like one of our 7 chakras, it's like this multi-dimensional, 5th dimension.
Yeah, they're all working and interacting together. Yeah.
And where's the idea of liberation in this?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, exactly. Yeah. Well, first you've got to understand that you are not any of these things. You're not these 4 elements. You're not this false ego. You're not this mind intelligence, right? So that's the first thing in spiritual life. Give up the ahankara. Give up the false ego.
Not this, not that.
Yeah, and then once you give up the false ego, you enter into this world of intelligence and ether and mind. So Krishna says in the Gita how Bhakti Yoga is actually Buddha Yoga. It's the yoga of intelligence, and like how intelligence is actually the intelligence is supposed to be the purest element. It's the closest element to the spiritual world as we can get. Yeah.
Which is the 7th.
7th element.
Because the 8th is the subtle ego.
Yeah, the 5th, the 8th is the ahankara. Yeah. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. But the false ego is the most subtle of all the elements. It is the most subtle, the most insidious. And that's the thing with, you know, Ananta and Lord Shiva ruling the ignorance. Like, we can't see it because we're in the ignorance. We can't actually, you know, we can't see beyond that. I mean, there's processes to see beyond it and get beyond it. But there's a conditioned soul that can't see beyond it. How do the yogas? Again, it's all used for the Vedic. If you look at any of the Vedic scriptures, like they even use the numbers. You have 700 verses in the Bhagavad Gita. You know, 700, the 7 rays. There's 18 chapters. Again, Mars rules the 18, the measure. It's the same with the Yoga Sutras and all of it. It's all the 5, you know, 5's always in there. Yeah. 5 senses. What is it, the 8? The 8 do's and do nots, isn't it? Yamas and the yamas. But again, it's all in there. It's all in that Vedic sort of 18, 700s. All the yugas. Well, Kali Yuga is 432 thousand years. Again, it's all based on 108. Yeah, it's all based on 108. So 4 times 108. I did music in the last one. I actually showed the hertz of it all going around. But we start. Well, that's music is going A. What is it? So A sharp, B, C sharp, D sharp, E flat, whatever you want. F sharp, G. to A again. So again, there's a whole musical notes in there. Again, Krishna being the sound in ether. The A frequency is 432 hertz. But if you divide that by 4, that's your 108. So the whole universe is based on that 108. Based on that 108 number, 108 hertz. What was the question? The yugas. Yeah, so 432,000 years is Kali Yuga. And doesn't it double for the Treta Yuga?
Yeah.
And then it doubles again for the
Doubles
Dwapara.
for Dwapara, doubles that for Treta, and then 10 times 432.
Yeah, for Satya. But it's always based on that 432 hertz, which is the basically the octave of the 108. It's the 108 times 4.
So the longest cycle is in time is Satya.
Satya Yuga, yeah. And that's when we come in and everything's pure and everything's on its highest vibration.
We're coming out of the...
We're right in the descension. Like we've gone through Satya Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Treta Yuga, and we're about 5,000 years into Kali Yuga. But Kali Yuga is the age of ignorance. It's the age of quarrel and hypocrisy. You know, like we're just starting that.
Can we bring on the quickening?
We're descending.
Got a long way to go.
So yeah. So actually, you know, it's descending knowledge.
Does they see the micro yugas in this inside those big ones?
Well, yeah, we have like 60-year epochs. We have 200 and. I mean, that's all part of the precession of the equinox. You know that one? Yeah. Precession of the equinox. So every year, every 72 years, the zodiac slips back a degree. So it ends up working after 26,000 years. The zodiac's back to square one again. So that's considered, they call it like those 26,000 year epoch. Yeah. But that's all fully Vedic. Yeah. But it's based on, again, 72 degrees of the pentagram. So every 72 years, the chakra slips back a degree. So eventually, the Tropic of Cancer becomes a Tropic of Capricorn. And then it goes round again. But there's scriptures, or there's things back in Egyptian times where they spoke of how the tropics were in different signs. I mean, even now, where's the astrology guy?
They talk about the axis tilting. So that's that.
Yeah, they say axis tilt and all sorts of stuff. Yeah. The precession of the equinox is calculated in Vedic astrology.
What was the question?
Well, are we in Gemini? Because the sun, technically Western tropical, the sun's just gone into Cancer.
In Western tropical, it's going into Cancer, but in Vedic, of course.
But is it in Gemini yet today?
No, it's. I think it's today, tomorrow. Yeah, it's just going into Gemini. Even though we're coming out of Gemini in Western astrology, we're actually going into Gemini.
So it's a pure 30 degrees out, isn't it? Yeah. So we're already 30 degrees out.
Yep.
So it's going to be, but it takes that 26,000 years to come back to square one again. So when you get a Vedic chart down, everything slipped back. It doesn't look right with Western, you know, it's like a different calculation.
And the constellational is even different. The constellational, the actual constellations that we talk about,
the way that,
it's even different.
Yeah. Just the tropical being the, obviously just the signs, the 12 signs, but then the Vedic are dealing fully with the nakshatras, which is these 27 star constellations going around on the outside of the actual thing. And actually the moon moves into the nakshatra every day, isn't it? The moon has a day in each nakshatra. That's why it has a 27.3, 28 cycle. Yeah. So it's every day the moon moves through the nakshatras as well as phasing, while also, because it has a similar orbit to the moon, so the sun, sorry. So this orbital track, all the planets follow, by the way. So you have the sun, the moon's above it, and you just keep going up, but they all follow the Manasatara, the actual, you see it in the sky anyway, they follow an actual, an orbital track, an actual plane.
I just had a bit of a question. Oh, sorry. I was just thinking, I know in tropical astrology, we like this year, for example, the lunar and solar, the lunar south and north nodes. We're now in Taurus and Scorpio, and they move backwards, and they move quite slowly. When you're talking about these positions in the flower of life, are you talking about this is their domicile?
Their natural home.
Natural home. So they're in their exaltation. In
in their natural position. Which is, isn't it?
It's the exaltation.
511, it's the Apollo 11 according to the Freemasons. the Apollo 11, they take the Saturn 5, because you've got Capricorn here, you know, Saturn rules Capricorn, so they take the Saturn 5 to the moon, riding the Apollo 11 anyway.
Why do you think in early astrology, Saturn, of course, in Hellenistic astrology also rules Aquarius, so it rules both?
Yeah, Saturn and Rahu,
Aquarius.
Yeah, so you've got Saturn and Aquarius down here. I did that, didn't I, on the last one
I think
too?
so, yeah.
Yeah, because Saturn Aquarius and Jupiter's ruling Sag, and I mean, I'll show that. 'cause
Yeah,
it's
you've
actually
done that
pretty
whole
cool.
thing. Yeah.
I didn't show everyone else. Yeah, but so the Sun rules 5th house, Moon rules the 4th house. But it's a good one to show this because it was in the last class. Should have been. 3, 6, so Mercury rules the 3 and the 6, which is Gemini and Virgo. Then Venus rules the 7 and the 2, so Taurus and 7 and Libra. And then Mars rules the 1st and the 8th. So they have that sort of. Venus is ruling that. They're ruling that. Jupiter's ruling these two. And Saturn is ruling the other two. But again, they all add up to 9, as with it being the Navagraha. 4th house and the 5th house is 9, 3 plus 6 is 9, 7 plus 2 is 9, 1 plus 8 is 9. So that's why it's the Navagraha, the 9 planets.
That's not 3, 6, and 9.
What did I do very wrong?
It's 3, 6, and 9. It's that's not.
Yeah, it goes there 3, 6, 9. Yeah, totally.
However you add them.
Yeah, huh?
However you add them.
However you work it, yeah.
3, 6, and 9.
But yeah, and the whole 108, and the pentagram numbers, they all reduce to 9. It'll always reduce to 9. That's why it explains the Navagraha. And if you add all the pentagram numbers together, it gets 27, which is the 27 nakshatras. But there's a mathematical logos to the universe. It's not an accident. It's not just this big explosion and everything's just flying around. Like there's a very controlled logos to the whole thing.
What do you mean the every 72 years the zodiac slips?
So you get the principle of how the sun's moving through the signs.
Yeah.
So now, I mean, Western sun's in the actual Canto, right? So in a whole year, 365 days, that chakra done a full circle. So it's done full 360 degrees. So it's back to where it is again on the 21st of March. So the year always starts on the 21st of March, yeah? So what's happening also is there's over the 72 years, there's it's just this slight slipping. It's moving slower than a full rotation. So there's this slight slipping. So over time, it slips off. The sun, you know, like now, like we were just saying, technically Western, the sun is in Cancer. It should be in Cancer, but it's not. It's in Gemini. So, and then in another while, another, what is that, 72 years times 30, say, it'll go on another 30 degrees out, and then we'll be having the Tropic of Cancer, will actually be the Tropic of Taurus. But yeah, that's what's going on, and it's creating those 26,000-year-old epochs.
That's what you call the progression of the equinox.
Succession of the equinox, yeah, it's 26,000-year progression.
That's in Mayan calendar as well, isn't it?
Mayan calendar.
Started, so no, 52.
I've not
3
looked.
times 26.
I don't know. The Mayans use 18-day months. So what's 18? How many can you get in there? 18, 18, 20. What was it? 20 18-day months. Anyway, they have a whole thing, but it's all still based on this. But they just divide it up differently. Yeah. Anything else?
I have a general question. Why is it always 3s or 9s or divisibles or multiples of that? What's the basis behind that?
Well, it's because it's hexadecimal, basically. You know, you've got the it's the seed that's creating it, which is a 6 in itself. You know, the 6 in itself. The degrees of the petals are 30 degrees. So straight away you have 3, 6 there. You know, it's just built into the cosmos.
So just the naturally occurring.
Yeah. It's literally the logos is what God has created into the whole thing.
Krishna is sometimes called the Lord of Threes.
Really? Never heard that. Oh, wow. Yeah. And again, actually the triangle is the 3 mothers. It's Sarasvati, Parvati, and Lakshmi. Shiva being here, so you've got Shiva, Parvati, you have Brahma, Sarasvati, and you have Vishnu and Lakshmi. Again, ruling the. You heard of the Star of the Devas? Well, it's the Star of David. But all through Vedic, you see this 6-pointed star. That's the Star of the Devas, and that represents the 3 male demigods and the 3 female demigods: Shiva, Brahma, Vishnu, and their consorts. Again, all coming from that mess.
We were all taught before Christianity they were just barbarians.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it was all cavemen, this whole caveman idea, we just came out of nothing, like it's all you know. And we know, we're descending, we're going backwards, we're becoming more ignorant, we're becoming more materialistic, more disturbed, and just look at the state of the world, you know. It's like, it's not getting any better.
I have a question.
When did you say this Kali Yuga is going to end?
Oh, let's go 428,000 years. And it's going to get progressively worse, you know.
It feels like we're...
Especially lately.
But no, there's a Satya Yuga coming though, isn't
Is there a Satya coming?
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean. There definitely seems to be like an awakening
There's
happening.
a Satya coming, isn't there?
It's a spiritual life then that doesn't influence too much.
Yeah, they do say that within the Kali Yuga there's supposed to be a 10,000 year golden age of this sort of an age of enlightenment. Yeah. So you got that to look forward to. Well, yeah. But again, it's up to us. But there's always that 2 sides. Yeah. Sorry, use us to.
One of the concepts of Hindu philosophy is Nada Brahma. Nada Brahma. Nada means sound.
Yep.
And also means motion.
Yeah.
So where does the universe is in motion? Planets are in motion. So we are also in motion.
Totally.
So in that case, when we mathematically structure it this way, where does motion come in?
It's a spinning. It's a Kala chakra. It's the wheel of time. It's all moving. So it's moving around a fixed physical point. It has a pivot point, but it's still all moving. If you take pictures of the stars and do a time lapse of the stars, you'll see these circles in the sky. That is what's going on, you know what I mean? And if you want to sort of take in relativity and say we're moving, the stars are moving, or is the stars moving, or we're moving.
I mean, the word rhythm keeps coming to me. Rhythm. You know, there is rhythm. That's the answer to the 3 question, isn't it?
And it also connects back to Shiva as well. It's Shiva's drum that actually is creating the whole universe, the beating of his drum. Shiva rules it all.
Don't you see that 8 sort of a thing, infinity sort of a thing, when you actually draw that?
In
like,
infinity? Well,
yes, the symbol of infinity.
Well, infinity is the number 8.
Exactly, yes.
Exactly, it's a number 8.
The analemma as well.
So the time is
the analemma. Yeah.
So the time is also the similar way of pattern, if you put it like an 8. So when you say it's spinning as an 8 or an infinity symbol, so is the time is also a sort of a similar pattern of movement?
Well, time's relative according to the chakra. We measure time because the sun comes around, because it goes day and night. The sun is all relative to the chakra, what's going on with the constellations, right? With the universe. We measure time from day and night. It's that creates the day and the night and the time ticking. All these degrees. So you was asking before about longitude and latitude. You can do the same with longitude and latitude on the circle, and fully use a watch or a magnetic compass to fully predict where the suns and the stars are going to be. It's like a mathematical way of navigation. Again, navigation.
Is that what navigation is? That
Nava.
Spanish? Is that navigation?
No, well, Nava comes from Vedic.
Meaning nine?
Navigates, 9 gates. Navigate. Yeah. And they always use the stars to navigate from. You know, they use the Navagraha to basically find out where they are. You know, where they are.
Even I have one more. I find the Big Bang is actually a sound, right? Big Bang means the bang is a sound.
Yeah.
So in Hindu philosophy also the Nada Brahman, that's also sound.
Yeah.
Brahman.
So both are the same.
Brahma, what did Brahma do?
So what science says and what this says is the same, right?
Well, yeah, in a way, but the Vedic explain it as people and person and personalities behind it. Westerners explain it that it's all empty and meaningless. There's no gods out there, there's no people, there's no intelligent design, it's all a random accident. So I can understand what you're sort of saying, but there's a real big thing missing. They also say, like, you know, the Greeks understood the earth as a sphere and all these things. But if you actually understand the Greek philosophy, they understood Mount Olympus, they understood Zeus, and, you know, they had this real detailed understanding of the cosmos. Whereas the Western one is just close your eyes, basically, like nobody, it's just an accident just flying around going on, you know, nobody even pays attention to what's going on.
But Brahma is omniscient, omnipotent. He's also not being seen. So it's the same as Big Bang, right?
Could we say the Big Bang is the Om that Brahma vibrates?
Yeah,
so it starts with sound, and there's the Big Bang. It's not just an explosion.
But you couldn't use that to prove the Western model. You know what I mean?
That is, yeah. But
I wouldn't use that to prove the Western model.
Brahma,
but yeah.
Om,
you know.
That's how it started.
Krishna
played the flute, and then it came out.
How much gets first, then he goes, then the Sutras, then the...
Well, I mean, Rahu and Canto are invisible. I've seen different things on it, but are we having dinner or?
6:44. 6:44.
Yeah, I'm a bit.
He wants his wife to
That's the introduction. For another circle.
Hey, you want to draw another circle?
Another circle.
Is the Earth flat?
Sorry?
Is the Earth flat?
According to Vedic scriptures, yeah.
It's another lecture.
That's the next one. What does it say? What is the...
Well, it considers it to be a 4 billion mile Earth disk. So 4 billion miles across.
Yes.
Earth disk sat within. So you have what's called a Bhugola, which is a 4 billion mile sphere. Within the sphere is half filled with water, and within that water there's a what's called Bhumandala, the Earth circle disk, and it sits on top of that. And we're just a tiny, tiny aspect of that whole universe. You know?
So one question down here. So it means that the surface of the Earth goes from one edge to the other edge of the universe?
Yes.
Completely covering all the... But actually Prabhupada doesn't say that in the Bhagavatam. Prabhupada says it is 4 billions of diameter of the universe, not the Earth.
No, the Earth isn't quite as big because it fell, didn't it? It fell into the water and Vara lifted it up, right? So there's a slight gap, right? Yeah. That's what he said.
Even if there is a gap still...
What's your question?
Question is that Prabhupada says that the diameter of the universe is 4 billion miles.
Yes.
Yeah, the universe.
Of the universe. Universe. Okay? The diameter of the universe.
Yes, I'll explain it in detail.
Okay.
Right, you have the Bhugola, which is 4 billion miles across. You have the Bhumandala districts within that. The gap between is even explained. The gap between the edges is this distance from Manasatara mountain. It's all in the Bhagavatam. This distance to the center is that distance. So see how I created a gap between the discs. There is a gap there. The disc isn't just all the way across, it's floating. But it's all in the 5th canto. Like, you just got to read this and it'll show you it.
No, I'm reading.
Have you understood?
I'm reading.
Because yeah, Prabhupada does say 4 billion miles across. Yeah.
The Earth planet.
Bhumandala, Earth circle, Bhumandala.
Bhumandala means...
I'm not talking about the Earth planet, I'm talking about Bhumandala.
But Bhumandala is the Earth.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
You're saying the Earth is just one part of that.
No,
Yeah, so you have the Bhumandala Earth, the massive 4 billion mile disk, and like I was saying to you, there's Jambudweep, there's Bharat, which is a small island within saltwater ocean going on. Water, land within ocean, within water. What's the natural physics of water? Does anyone know the natural physics of water?
What do you mean?
The natural physics. The natural physics of water is that it'll lay flat. It will always lay flat. That's why, I build for a living. If you ever want to actually create a level thing, you use water. Create a perfect level. So that level that I've got now, it goes eternally straight that way, eternally straight that way. Right?
There's
There's
your
water.
Destroy the globe.
Water. There's no curve. The level. And if I want to know, I got no string. But if I want to know the vertical, I use a plumb bob. So I use air and earth, and I can create the vertical, or I use water and air to create the level. This is how people build. They've built for millennia. The pyramids are built like that. You have the water level and the plumb bob, and it creates.
What's a plumb bob?
It's plumb bob.
And the string with a little heavy weight on it.
Just a string with a weight on the end will give you a perfect vertical.
Okay.
Give you a perfect vertical wherever you go. Yeah. That's why you can climb up to the pyramids and just have a piece of string, and, and you can cut a perfect line. It's like the done line.
If you add the density of water, which is like about 999 kilo per meter cubed, adds up to 7.
Adds up to what?
7.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, remember the world is supposed to be 70% water, so we have 30% land, 70% water. But the natural physics of water that we can prove is that it lays flat. So just work that out. Just apply that to the ocean, right? It's a tough one. I know it's a tough one.
So is that disk supposed to represent Earth too? Is that more symbolic?
It's a tough one again, because we have the macro, we have the major universe, which is the 4 billion miles across, and then we have the Kala Chakra going on around here, which is 2 billion miles across. But because we're so small, we're getting a smaller version stepped down to us, you know what I mean? But we are still seeing a wheel, like let's look at star trails or something like that. We're seeing a wheel in the sky, just a localized wheel. I mean, they've always understood it as a wheel.
But you said that it is the false ego.
Yes.
False ego is created by the subconscious. That's what you said, right?
I wouldn't say the false ego was created by the
I mean,
but yeah, there's 8 universal elements in the Vedic system: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. So the false ego is the subtlest element within that whole, with all those elements. But the false ego has a particular purpose.
What is that?
To create false, this is the whole thing, the whole cosmos is creating these false bodies and these false heads, which is who we are. We're transcendental spiritual beings, Only due to the time that I was born is created this person because of my karma, If I'd have been born literally 20 minutes later, I'd have been a different person. So it's the Kala Chakra through the false ego, through these subtle elements that is creating.
So that's the same as Maya.
Maya.
But I heard one sentence from you. You said false ego within us comes from the subconscious.
Well, no, it's in the subconscious.
In the subconscious.
Yeah.
So false ego manifests the subconscious.
So what about the unconscious?
The unconscious. Well, the unconscious is the subconscious that you're not aware of. It's sub.
You get conscious and you're unconscious.
If you're unconscious, you're dead.
Become super conscious.
No. Actually, in psychology, it's divided into 3: conscious, subconscious, and unconscious.
It relates to waking, dreaming, sleeping.
That is
while
in subconscious.
sleeping is
That's in
unconscious.
subconscious.
That's why more samadhi, lying in shavasana at night and less sleep, takes you beyond the unconscious, beyond the sleep.
In all this, Prabhu, is there any Just by studying that, you could never understand what's beyond the creation, right? Just by all this.
Well, again, it's a reflection. You can because it's the rasa dance.
No,
the whole circle wheel going on. It's actually the rasa dance.
No, actually,
the 8 directions, the sun and the moon. Sun is Krishna, Radha is the moon. You have the other, the Navagraha, which is the 8 Shaktis, the 8 directions. We live within a perverted reflection. So it is Gokul, but just a reflection of it.
Shadow.
It's also lotus, right?
It's a what?
It's like a lotus as well.
Of course, it's a lotus flower.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like Gokulaka, Parapada.
Yeah.
The lotus, spiritual is like a lotus.
So like a lotus.
no, but
This is just like an opposite lotus.
Yeah. It's an inverted, perverted reflection, a material version, a measurable version.
Status.
Yeah. The original's limited. Sorry, you say.
no, the
That's the yoga.
modern psychology says the cure for any human illusions is to make the unconscious conscious.
Yeah.
So, where is unconscious in all these? You said Maya, which is
That's not
manifested in the form
I
of
don't think it's really. I don't think it really matters.
That's beyond unconsciousness. That's
Just
what
like
we-
Emmanuel.
Just put the unconscious in the subcategory. It's that we have the conscious world, we have the subconscious. Then obviously, if we're not aware, we're unconscious. I agree. Yes.
Is it? But that's not what Freud is saying.
Yep, Freud.
You,
Well, I'm
Freud,
not
they're saying
teaching Freud.
make the unconscious conscious.
Oh, who
Make the
wants to
unconscious
listen to
conscious.
him?
This is Vedic cosmology, probably the wrong
He's a long
building.
way from
Freud is dead.
Freud was a loser, basically.
I've been doing all this for like about
I'm
8
a
years.
gainer from this.
Yeah.
He
And I
was
do
Western
wish everybody had come to that
psychology.
previous class because it just gives such a deeper understanding, you know what I mean? And I'm basing all that on what I spoke last time, you know what I mean? But anyway, I'll just keep doing it. We'll probably do another one.
Yeah.
Just like you got the chakra colors on the top here, is that mirrored on the, planets and stuff down the bottom?
You've got to see it as conscious, subconscious.
Oh, okay.
So above, so below.
Yeah. As above, so below.
Top is conscious, bottom is...
Yeah. We have the conscious world, we have the subconscious world. We have the...
So does that fit in with all them stuff, like Scorpio and...
Well, yeah, those planets are considered the outer planets, right? They're dealing with the sub, Jupiter and Saturn. They're on the outer realms. You know what I
And if
mean?
that's your star sign, is that related? That means you're in the...
Totally. Yeah. It doesn't mean. Yeah. It doesn't mean.
Right.
What star sign are you?
Scorpio.
Scorpio. Yeah, great. Yeah. That's Mars rule, and it's. It's Mars rule, but it's water. So it's fire underwater. Yeah. But Scorpio rules the 8th. Scorpio is all this 8th house hidden stuff. It's the 8th house. But Scorpios are into detail. They're into all the detail, right?
Yeah, my mind's blown with all this thing.
Yeah. You love this. But Mars rules. I always get on with Scorpios because Mars rules Scorpio and Aries because I'm an Aries, so we'd get along. But the Mars rule for me, Aries is direct, whereas Scorpio it's detail. They just love detail. You know what I mean? Where I'm more into just the practical side.
Right.
Cool. Yeah.
G sharp.
I did. I got my spelling wrong. I realised that when I was doing that.
You missed it.
So there's D. That should be a D sharp, or it's an E flat. Yeah. And that should be E. That should be F. Sorry. I did sort G sharp. Yeah. But again, 12 musical notes. And if you're a musician, if you're into this stuff, you can work out your what is it? The circle of fifths. And all musical notation it's all within there. The circle of fifths is within there as well. So again, the whole musical notation, all the frequencies and everything, it's all connected to it. And again, the Samvatsara wheel has to be inside of us. So when we hear these frequencies, it has those effects on us. Do you know what I mean? And the frequencies are affecting are all themed by the zodiac. So that's why we can have music in particular moods, or some people are affected by it, some people aren't, because it's resonating, how it resonates in us. Do you know what I mean? But we have the Samvatsara wheel inside of us. Otherwise, music wouldn't make sense. Language wouldn't make sense. So
Human bodies also built on a sacred geometry.
we have a magnetic north, right? So the understanding is that you have this major Kala chakra going on in a massive way. But it's our magnetic center that's pulling, this our own chakra covering towards us. And it is all electromagnetic. Just pull out a compass. There's an electromagnetic pull to the north.
That's what they say, it's real gravity that doesn't exist. It's actually
It's magnetism, it's electromagnetism, yeah. And instead of being pulled to the centre of a globe, what we're all talking about, we're being pulled to the centre of a circle. We're being pulled to a bindu point, a power point, a sensor point.
Yeah. So when you pointed to the Shiv Lingam, so the actual Kal Chakra is the yoni, is that it?
Of course, it's the yoni and lingam. Yeah. The yoni pit and the lingam. Yeah. There's a form of Shiva called Jyotirlingam, where Shiva's worshipped. There's 12 temples in India, where he's worshipped as a column of light. Yeah, Jyotirlingam.
Actually, the Brahma Samhita described the Shiv Lingam as that is the subtotal of all souls also.
I can actually, I can flip the snake, I can flick the snake and actually show Shiva, do a whole Shiva Lingam thing, but it'll take me.
That's why Shiva's called Bhuvaneshwar, Lord of the Universe.
Yeah, the three worlds. Yeah, and everything. He rules the mode of ignorance, so he rules the illusion. He really is. He's the boss, and he's the hidden boss. People don't realise. And also, he's the gatekeeper to the Rasadans too. It's Gopeshvara, isn't it? So he's also the gatekeeper to the chakra.
He has his aspect in the deluding form, but he also has his aspect in the spiritual form.
Yeah. It's Gopeshvara, yeah. He's a little gopi. Yeah.
We should stop construction and do this full time.
I'm trying. Not a lot of money in this stuff.
That's right, exactly.
We'll feed you, don't worry.
Go to schools or something and teach the basics to kids.
Yeah, this has to be
this roots out. Anthony Albanese and give them just like a rundown of what you do. Write to him, it's on the net.
No, I appreciate that. I get it.
He will pay you. Tell him how necessary it is in this time and age for children to go beyond the digital realm to learn some things that will get their imagination into the higher realms of awe and wonder to this new.
I totally agree with it, but I do feel that the powers that be, especially the Western powers, they don't want this.
Yeah.
They don't want
What
you
makes
to know.
you say that?
I totally appreciate we should.
Albanese is open to a lot of things. I think he's quite ready to be.
I'll check him out.
But instead of religious studies at school, they're also doing ethics classes.
Yeah,
And that's a volunteer thing.
Yeah, right.
So, you might be able to go into schools.
Yeah, I'm just going to keep doing it. I have a YouTube channel, I do a lot online, so I am always doing it. But,
What's your channel?
We'll spread the word.
VEDIAK.
And also party, I don't mean like parties, but I mean, I just, not kids' parties, but also you could be able for this interesting.
Well, it needs to be sort of a yogi crowd. It does need to be, do you know what I mean? Like, that's what I did with the kids. I started
Even everyone who came first class, none of them came back to the second.
Something was.
Yeah, but they loved it. Where was it? The last one was really into it.
So they liked it.
But yeah.
It's niche, isn't it? It's not the world.
That's what I mean,
The world
it's
are never
niche.
going to understand it.
Yeah. And who wants to?
When you're at that intelligence level, this is so satisfying to the mind to understand it.
It reconciles it all.
It does, it brings peace.
Puts it back to the earth. It earths it. Makes it all sense of it all. Yeah, it does. Whereas the Western model cannot do that. Western cosmology cannot answer anything. It keeps us.
It keeps us in
stupid.
ignorance.
It keeps us in ignorance. We're just monkeys flying on a wall through space. It's ridiculous, you know. So, yeah, I don't know. And that's what led me to sort of get into this stuff. So when I do present it, I really try and show the mystical, the intelligence behind it all. It's not like it's nothing
It
like.
shows just a glimpse of the intelligence of God. Of the
Yeah.
Creator, doesn't it?
And you should for yourself, anybody that's interested in that, get a compass, actually do it as a meditation, as a sadhana. I do it myself, like every day. And the more you do it, the more you sort of sink in and connect with it. That's how I've found everything that I've done. I've just been playing with the seed of life and things to sort of reveal themselves. There's an element where it's sort of talking to you. It really is, especially if you want it.
That's what I had that game as a kid where you put the circles and you put the...
Spiral.
Yes, I love that. That was fun.
Sorry.
I was just saying, that's what I was finding tonight. It's not that I'm absorbing on a mental level.
Yeah,
there
it's
is
deeper than
something
that.
changing in my brain.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the drawings too. It's actually the drawing because it's like I keep saying, it's in us. It's in us. And I know in myself, the more I see it and the more I'm around it, it reveals and opens it up in myself. So it does. It's real. It isn't some theory.
Imagine singing now if we were to sing.
All right, I think it's dinner time, so let's give a hand to So I think we'll do a part 3 next time you come back, which will be
21st of, can we do that, Larry?
October.
21st of September, or thereabouts. Because I'm trying to do the solstices and the equinoxes. The first class was there, the second class is here.
Yeah, line it up.
So if I can do the, I want to do the whole cross.
Prerequisite, watch the video before.
Yeah. I've filmed this one. But check the channel out and watch some of that stuff. It's all pretty controversial, absolutely. But
VEDIAK.
VEDIAK. There's, even if you type it in Google, it'll come up. There's not many VEDIAKs there.
All right, thank you everyone. We're also going to start serving dinner. Be very patient because it looks like there's quite a few mouths to feed.
Great.
Remember we're talking, it's like all the babies are trees, it's like the
There'll be a light.
and we could have that in the reality. That's the Bhagavatam.
This is cute. There's something. This is cute. No.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. You know, the strategy is like,
Yes.
you know how it represents.
No, that's what
I'm also like that.
The tree starts
when I outside, so I had
I try not to say how. I had to show the thing. Months or the government to get
ignorance and modern, you've got ignorance.
no, and I'm a bit curious about what this is. That's fine.
Well, so if I flip it over and show you sheet, right, it represents Western country.
my brain was like, everything is
regular.
What's Easter?
I got it. That's what I mean, like everything in my brain is like,
They take the natural way of things. So you don't have to be your intentions are doing it properly. You don't have to be worried about it. It's just burden.
You've got the alpha, which is the alpha, then you have gamma,
that's why
alpha is beta is the sun, the Rahu. So you have alpha, beta,
I came and I just finished. You're having a chat. Something about it. And I was like, oh, that's something really interesting. I love you about that.
Anyway,
it's the talk that I just missed.
I've got a video. Just the one quick question.
it's a big enough to get checked.
Oh, yeah.
Because like once you decide
This is real science.
So you like
And again, 12 countries. Well, it's about the cosmos. So what is the heart of everything? Yeah. The fifth country is
What's in the science of the world, which I think one day
crazy adventures in I know, that's what I'm saying.
I don't think that is really good. I have to try myself.
the angle of the eye is slightly different.
Egyptian.
You have to stay involved.
I mean, there's a positive in Freemasonry where we're actually working so like material death.
Krishna talks about the
yeah, if you want more confidence,
It just took me a little while to get back there.